Well, so welcome everyone to this session on how to conduct a trademark search by me, Sonal Sinha. I am an IP lawyer with an experience in trademarks and copyrights law. I have worked with clients from various sectors and industries, from fashion and media to food and security services to information technology and publishing houses. So whenever dealt with a client, the first thing that we talk to them about is the availability of the trademark, if they should even proceed with it. So that is where trademark search comes into the picture. um, Coming to the IP press, what is the IP press, and why should you care about this session, is that we are a network or a group of IP professionals from around the world who came together and decided to create this platform, and we like to call ourselves the IP holics. The purpose of this platform is to, share knowledge, encourage discussion, and make our contribution towards the IP literacy around the world. And in India, we have representatives and members from various countries. Of course, India, people from the US, Germany, Nigeria. So it's an extensive network. And to all the law students out there who hope to make a career in IP law, this is a platform for you, because we have a group of people who have achieved and treaded the path that you want to go through and that you are going through. So I would highly encourage you all to follow our platform, interact with us, get in touch with us, and let's start the presentation now. So before we proceed, I would like to let you I would like to give you a brief idea of this presentation. So firstly, we'll run through the basic theory and the basics of trademark search. I'll run you through everything, and then we'll go on to the practical, solving a few practical examples and practical cases, some interesting cases for you all. We'll also see and learn how to conduct a search on the public search platform provided by the CGPDDM. And then I would urge you all to stay till the end, because we also have a sort of an offer for you all. And of course, there will be a Q&A session where I'll be taking all of your questions. So stick towards the end. Do not leave in the middle. Otherwise, you will definitely lose out on the practical experience that we hope to provide you through this session. So now let's begin. Uh, so what is a trademark search, right? Whenever a client comes to you and they have a proposed mark, a word that they want to register. Okay, before proceeding, I am assuming that, all of you have a basic idea of what a trademark is. For those who don't have that idea, basically a trademark is that when a company has a certain brand or a product, so the word or the picture that they use along with that product or the or brand to market or trade in the market with, that is a trademark. So for example, there's a company called Galderma, and they have a brand of face wash, uh, Cetaphil. So Cetaphil will be the trademark, and the company is Galderma, right? So that is all. When a client comes to you with a proposed trademark and they say, I would like to register this trademark, I'm using this in the market, or I'm planning to launch this in the market, the first thing that you teach them or you tell them is conducting a trademark search to determine whether it's available or not. If it's not available, or if there's somebody else who's using the same or a similar kind of trademark, it's of no use, because you'll end up spending a lot of money in litigation, or you just end up spending a lot of money settling with them and then rebranding your brand or your mark, and that just costs a lot of money. So why go through so much of a hassle? Instead, conduct a trademark search in the very beginning to determine if you should even move ahead with this, right? So Trademark searches are, so that is what trademark search is. It's done pre-registration. There are some searches that are done after some time. For example, you have a client that's been there with you for a while and you have registered the trademark. They come up, they come to know about somebody who's using this same mark or similar mark. So you also conduct a search then, but that is called due diligence because you're trying to determine whether this other person or the other entity is actually using an infringing mark, or and if they are using, to what extent, right? So that is due diligence. And trademark search is done pre-registration to ascertain if the mark is available to register and use. I hope that is clear. Uh, if not, you all can, I'm not able to see the screen. I'll just read. So if you have any questions, anybody, just keep that. I would say keep that with yourself, and we'll take that towards the end for sure. So don't worry, none of your questions will get, will be unanswered. So coming back to the presentation. So now why even conduct a trademark search, right? So as I said, the most important reason is to avoid trademark infringement. You want to make sure that your client does not go through the pain of an extensive litigation, or getting served a legal notice by somebody else who is using or has registered that trademark. So to make sure that the mark that your client has come up with is not infringing on somebody's mark. So people, so there are certain kind of words in certain industries that are very common. For example, derma is is a word. Derma means skin. So in skincare industry or in cosmetic industry, derma is a word that is very commonly used. So people come up with variations of dermatologica, dermat, and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that if your client is using such a generic name, it is distinctive enough or creative enough that it's not infringing on somebody else's mark, and it's not similar to any other mark existing in the market. Although if your client is using such a generic mark, I would say advise them not to, or just come up with strategies to not use such a common word. Potential conflicts, again, if you come up, so if there are conflicts, how do you strategize?
I,
What are the
Sonal,
strategies?
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I'm sharing the slides. I'm sharing the screen because slides are not visible.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I think the share was. Oh, I think I saw stopped sharing by mistake. I'll just share it once again. Is it visible now?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yes, ma'am, it is
I didn't. Okay, okay. Great. So you want to also, so as I said, avoiding infringement. Why do you conduct a trademark search? To avoid infringement and to identify conflicts. And if there are conflicts, then are there ways in which you can strategize and come up with strategies to mitigate that risk? And then mitigating the risk of having to rebrand later. So we've had a client who was launching a line of liquor, and then it so turned out that the mark was similar, phonetically similar to one of the pre-existing and very well-known brands, and our client got served by that brand. They, in the end, we came up with a lot of strategies, using creative elements or just going with a logo mark to create a differentiation. And even and pointing out that the goods are different in the sense that if they are selling beer, then we are selling whiskey. If they are selling vodka, then we are selling whiskey. But in the end, the client had to rebrand because it's just very expensive. It's unnecessary, and it causes a lot of loss to your client, because for our client, they had started, printing the label of their bottles. They had produced a lot of bottles, and they were almost towards the end, and they were going to launch within the next few months. So it leads to a lot of loss, and it leads to a lot of wastage of time. So it's better to conduct this, go through all this due diligence at the initial stage, and do it properly to avoid any such conflicts at the later stage. And of course, it also gives you a valuable insight at the landscape, you know, and gives you ideas as to what are the marketing strategies. Again, one of the beautiful things about trademarks is that it's not just law; it's also very close to, and it's in sync with branding and marketing. So definitely conducting an extensive and a well trademark search gives you a lot of insight on the marketing standards as well. So now, there are two types of trademark searches. One is a preliminary search and other is a comprehensive search. So a preliminary search is also called a knockout search or a screening search. This is a situation where your client does not want to spend a lot of money, on the attorney fees, and they just want a quick opinion. They don't want to go that deep. Of course, as an attorney, you will advise them to go, do a deep dive and search in depth. But there are other factors to be kept in mind as well. And there are some clients who are just not ready to cough up the money. So it's okay. You do a very preliminary, very simple knockout search. It takes minutes to do so, to do honestly, maximum a few hours, but it's not a big task. So you also don't end up charging them a lot, or you do it for free sometimes. So what you do is you'll just quickly, do a public search on the CGPTDM, which I'll show you towards the end in the coming slides. You do a quick search to identify what are the marks that are registered with, that are identical or similar to your client's mark, and then you give them the give them the opinion, the result of the search. A comprehensive search is a full availability search. You do a thorough, in-depth, deep dive, not just on the public search platform. There are some clients who are going to launch internationally. So you search on other platforms like the USPTO, United States Patent and Trademarks Office, the EU IPO, the Intellectual Property Office of Europe. And then there are other tools like the Global Brand Database by the WIPO, and there's also TMView. So you do an international search as well. You will go through social media websites to make sure that there are no infringing marks, infringing businesses using the trade name. You also do a domain name search. For that, you can use the tool Whois is an effective tool. And then also, as I said, this is not the so comprehensive search can actually vary in intensity. The intensity of the search will be determined. So you have to sit with your client and understand the extent of their business, the extent of their launch, where are they going to launch, and then decide to what level do you want to go. Of course, you will search. So the basic things that you would search is the public search. If they're launching internationally, then definitely international search engines. And if they're going to have an online business, then obviously it's a prudent thing to do a domain name search as well, and social media. And then business directories, mostly that consists of websites like Just Dial, Desert Cart, and similar websites. Now, conducting a search on the CGPDM, the main reason why we are all here, the thing that we are here to learn. So when you conducting on conducting a search on CGPTTM is a very simple task. It has levels, and it sometimes can be very extensive. If your client throws at you some common word like bao buns for food in the food industry, you will end up searching for hours and hours, and it will cause you a lot of back pain. But it is a very simple task. So the first thing to do is determining the primary class of goods and services. So, for example, I mentioned Cetaphil earlier. right? So Cetaphil is a soap brand. So for that, you will have to determine the relevant class, right? And the relevant class for that would be just class 5, pharmaceuticals and all. Again, for example, if somebody is launching toys, your client is coming up with toys. So the relevant or the primary class would be class 28, but you'll also go through ancillary classes to be thorough in your search, recommend them all the similar and related classes. Determine variations or similar names, pronunciations of the word. For example, for Cetaphil, I would say I would break it down into Ceta and then Phil. Cetaphilia, Ceto, just like coming up with different relatable, or just breaking it down into two, right? That gives you a much better idea. And then, of course, start with the word search. So a common rule of thumb that I follow is that I start with contain search, and then I go to start with, and then I go to match with, because it's sort of it's like a funnel, right? So the contain search will contain the maximum number of trademarks that are there. Then when you do a start with search, obviously contain search will contain a lot of marks that start with that mark. I'll show you. It might seem a bit confusing, but when I teach you through examples, you'll get a better idea. But all the results that you get in the contain search will also contain some aspect of the start with search, but it's always prudent to go through all these. And then match with will show you a lot of similar marks. Then you go to phonetic search, which shows you a lot of phonetically similar marks. Now here, sometimes you end up getting thousands of results. So you have to be very careful there, and employ strategies like what we used to do is we control F, and then look for similar names. You of course break it down. You have to once you've done a couple of searches, you get the idea of how to do it. But phonetic search can be a bit typical, but stick through it and then you'll learn the tricks very easily. So once you do the search, you after doing the search, you get the chance to save a PDF of all the similar marks that you've selected. So obviously you're not going to show your client a huge document, right? Your job is to make it easier for your client to understand. So you will review the search results, and then you'll find out those marks that are actually creating a conflict. How do you do that? You look at the marks that are registered. You look at the marks that have a prior use than your client, because in India, use is more important than the date of registration. So if there's somebody who has been using the mark since a long time, and then there's somebody else who has a registration over the trademark, but they have recently started using it, the one that has a prior use will always win the situation. So if there's somebody who has started using prior to your launch, that, and of course marks that are identical or very closely similar to your client's mark. That is how you refine the search, and then you analyze and interpret the results, which I'll show you how you do it, right? So how do you analyze the results? First thing that you can do is you can categorize your search results into identical, similar, and non-conflicting. These are three headers that you divide into. Check out the non-conflicting marks, because that's none of your concern. When it comes to identical and similar, again, try to cull out those marks that. So it's always a good thing to mention to your client that, see, these are the identical marks that might pose a threat. Even if they started using later than your mark, there are always chances, because when the prosecution starts and the trademark registry reviews your mark. Yeah, so when the trademark registry reviews your mark, it's mostly they sometimes they just give you a list of trademarks that are identical to your mark. I'm sorry, is somebody trying to say something? There's a lot of noise. If Thank you. Yeah, so always list out all the marks that are identical to your client's mark because they would like to know, and the trademark registry might put that in the examination report. Doesn't matter if they started using later, just put it there so that your client also knows that this might come up at a later stage when you register, when you file an application. Similar marks, now here you can cull out those or like filter out those marks that really don't seem like a threat. They are similar or they are remotely similar but not, so there's a difference between goods and services. For example, in pharmaceutical, so in class 5 only, we have pharmaceutical goods as well and we have cosmetic things as well. So if there's quite a stark distinction between goods and services, you can remove that. If if your client started using earlier than the reported mark, you can remove that. The risk level, again, this it depends on the registration date, the the market through which the conflicting marks will go through, and the distinctiveness of your client's mark. And then, of course, potential strategies that you will use at a later stage. For example, when you write your opinion, you can say that, okay, this mark seems to be similar or this mark seems to be identical, but we can very easily overcome any objection or oppositions by claiming prior use or claiming different goods and services or claiming distinctiveness, stuff like that. Now, distinctiveness, again, this is something that is a different topic altogether, but just to give you an idea, acquired distinctiveness and inherent distinctiveness, right? So if your mark is something that is a very unique name in itself, for example, CeraVe, right? It's an inherently distinctive mark, so it's different. Or acquired distinctiveness, again, I would say a brand like Apple, who is so famous that it has acquired distinctiveness. Now, once you're done with all of that, you prepare a trademark clearance opinion. That now the intensity of your opinion again depends upon the type of search, right? So if you if you are conducting a knockout search, you will keep it very brief. A line or two line is enough. Or like if your client is paying you a little bit, then you can attach your PDF or just give them a paragraph of an opinion, because client wants to save time and money, and you also want to save your time and money. So keep it simple. Yes, this seems to be a very low risk mark, you can go ahead with it. Or there seems to be a very high risk to this mark, please don't go ahead with it, we would advise against it. If it's a comprehensive search that you're doing, then you will, of course, go all in with your mark. You will give your client a background of what is the mark, what classes are they going under, what classes did you conduct a search in. Consider if there's a likelihood of confusion. Likelihood of confusion arises when, of course, there's an identical mark or a similar mark, and they are being used in the same or similar type of trade or industry. For example, again, Cetaphil and CeraVe, both are face washes. And if Cetaphil were to launch with Cerafil, so there's a high likelihood of confusion. If Cetaphil was a dishwash bar, then there was a very low likelihood of confusion, but still there was something. But if Cetaphil or Cerafil was a book, then of course there's a very low likelihood of confusion. Any defenses that the applicant may have, again, as we discussed earlier, defenses like distinctiveness, difference in goods and services, prior use, these things you have to mention that this is the risk. This might pose a risk, but we have this defense that is available. And a scale or a category of risk. Again, it's a low, moderate, or high risk. Let your client know. Offer strategic recommendations. You will, again, strategic recommendations as in you can sit with your client and help them with the branding as well. Like tell them that, okay, this seems to be a medium risk mark, but maybe if, instead of going ahead with the word mark, how about you go ahead with a label mark or a logo mark, stylized logo mark, so that at a later stage we can use this as a defense. And then, of course, when you have conducted a clear and search opinion, you proceed with a complete and clear understanding of potential risks, and you know what defenses to take when things go south, or if there's an examination report, or if there's an opposition filed against your mark, or if you receive a legal notice for infringement or passing off. And again, another way is to reach at a coexistence agreement. So, for example, coming back to Cetaphil and CeraVe, uh, if if there's Ceraphil and CeraVe, and Ceraphil approached CeraVe saying that, look, we are a dishwash bar and we don't really see ourselves getting into the face wash business in the future. So how about we enter into a coexistence agreement? So once you have that on board, you can show it to the court or show it to the registry, saying, look, we have this, given that there's litigation going on, and given that registry has raised an objection. That is one of the great ways to mitigate the risk. And of course, worst case scenario, you abandon the mark and start afresh with a better, more trademarkable name. So now, the part that we are all here for, conducting a trademark search. So I will show you three samples that we will be conducting a search for. The first one is Noir for wines, Bumpkin for toys, and Doodle for clothing. These are random names that I just came up with a few hours ago. So let's conduct searches for each. So I will quickly get my notepad ready, and then we all can proceed with the search. Is this visible?
Yes, ma'am.
No. Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, great. So the first one is Noir for wines, right? So we will determine so this is one tool that you all can go have a look at. This is TM class, and they have these headings which are very handy. So when it comes to liquor, there are two classes. There's 32 and 33, right? So the primary class over here will be 33, alcoholic beverages except beers. But then again, we also need to keep in mind the ancillary class, which would be 32. So we'll start with class 33, right? So this is word mark. And then we go to contain search. And then we'll just put on knowledge. And the primary class 33. We put this. But I always get these wrong, so please excuse me if great. So now we have this, right? This seems to be similar, and this is registered, so we'll pick that. Renault, this does not seem that similar and that conflicting, but then again. Okay. Comte, this is also not something that should concern us. Bombay North, something that we should worry about. Black, again. The Grand Noir, that's also important. Pinot Noir, okay. Registered, accepted and advertised. Objected. Now we will select this, but we'll also let our client know that this is objected. So that marked for examination, Bombay North. Let's keep this because we have, there's another Bombay North registered. Pasa Paul. Is this Pasa Paul? Paul and Paul seems to be same, right? So we'll click at the report. Once you click at the report button, it creates a downloadable PDF file consisting of all the results that you have selected, right? And then you will click at print report and then just save it with yourself. Okay, it's in my downloads folder. Anyways, and just save it for our future discussion. Now, next search. Now that we're done with contain search, which in a way showed us all the marks that did start with Noir, but to be on the safe side, we'll also conduct a search with the start with function. Noir black registered. Alcoholic beverages. Okay. But okay, wait. We did have this. Okay, we have this, in this report, so it does not make sense to save it. So I'll just cancel that. Next search. Now we come to match with 33. No records found. Good. But again, not good enough because we have these threads, potential threads. Now we go to phonetic. Vienna code is something that we are not going to do. Vienna code comes into picture when we have logo marks, which is a different chapter altogether. So for now, we're just focusing on word mark. New York, New Era, Nira, Nawad, and Noir Black. We have selected that. Nari. So nothing of that sort. So basically, we have these marks that we are going to show to our client. But before we do that, we also need to make sure. So, so out of all of these marks, you're going to translate Noir. Yes, that seems to be problematic, considering that our client has not launched their product yet. Okay, so and they are going to go into the wine making business. Now, this one has wines and they are using the word Noir. So that's a problem for us. And we will tell our client that, see, this is something that came up. Except beers, okay, they don't have wines specifically, and they have, so both of them have been using it for a long time, right? Bombay Noir, again, this is a problem. So similarly, this, this is a problem, this is a problem. So all of them seem to be problematic. And one thing that you will tell your client is that this mark seems to be uh, a something that is very common in the industry. B, if they are using the word Neuer, maybe, as you can see, again, you must have noticed that this is a word that is very common in this industry. So one thing that, a lot of applicants go through, like C. Legrand Neuer, what they have done is they have registered the whole label. That is a great way to, mitigate the risk. That is a great strategy. And also, if they have not launched, then of course, prior use is something that's not available. So for this one, the advice would be it is potentially a high risk or medium to high risk. And If they can, rebrand, that would be a good thing. But considering that they won't, it's good to either choose a very creative label or, yeah, like go ahead with a logo mark. I think that would be the best way forward over here. Now, again, we can also conduct a search in class 32 because that is an ancillary class, right? You'll notice that a lot of marks that we found in 33 will show up here along with further more marks, hopefully. See, Noy Black. This one seems to be a big, highly problematic mark. So just let's have a look at, because chances are that this one would be a big issue later on. So when conducting a very comprehensive search, what you should also do is, once you have finalized the marks that seem to be very close to your client's mark, you also check their e-register main page to make sure, there are sometimes they have marks on the register who are marks that are expired or they're not renewed since a long time. So it's always prudent to do that as well. We're not going to do that because then one example would take like half an hour and it would be too long for you all. See, now this is one thing that happens a lot of times. I said that this seems to be a very problematic mark, but in the end, what ends up happening is that they have not renewed or it's up for renewal. Okay, they might renew. Okay, they have not renewed the mark, but there's still some time. So this is something that you should do because e-registry is not very you know quick with updating the register. There are a lot of marks existing that have not been registered, that have not been renewed. So it's important, it's prudent that you check it on the e-register. So definitely will flag this to the client, but let them know that there are chances that this might not be that big of problem. But then since you have adopted such a name, I would suggest that we come up with strategies. I don't think we need to go with the start with search because though he marks this, so there's just Noir, Black. Noir, class 32. For me, the hardest part is this capture, to be honest, guys. No marks. Right. They did not have capture a year ago on public search, but they have decided to make it difficult for us and get it as well. So now we'll go through this, like quickly skim through this because we're lucky that it's only, okay, if it's first 100. Magic words. Where is it? Narrow need. You have to be, so I'm while I'm saying that you should skim through, you also need to be careful because Noir could have been, but then it's abandoned, so you don't pay attention to that. Noir Black shows up again, but your what is it for? No, so this seems to be phonetically close, but you have to then check the goods and services because see, it's drinking water, completely different goods, drinking water, soft drinks. So nothing that we should be concerned with. Niru, Naira, Noria. So not a problem. So so we conclude the search for Neuer. Now, as I said, we should check the e-register for Neuer Black. So we did class 32. We'll also do class 33 just to be safe. Is overdue. Renewal is overdue. 16.5. So they still have about a few months to restore this. So chances are that they might not, but if you're doing a comprehensive search, let your client know that this is the situation. And maybe do a Google search as well or a market search. Investigate this to know what the real deal is, what's really happening. So now, coming back to the other marks. The other one is bumpkin for toys for toddlers, right? So right. So toys for toddlers, the first thing that we will go through is class 28, games and toys. Is there anything else that looks relevant to us? Not really. Instructional teaching materials, plastic sheets. So we'll keep that because class 16, because a lot of toddler toys also have these illustrative books that they can use. Let's just keep it to two. If you want to, if you're doing this for real, you can also go through class 15 because some of them have this. But then again, before going that deep, it's always good to consult with your client to know what they're exactly doing. So we'll just keep 28 and 16, and then we'll go ahead with the search. No marks. I think you all must be getting the idea that pumpkin seems to be a very unique word. So there are very less chances that there will be something that is similar to this, right? Nothing over here as well. Wow, nothing here as well. Bombshell, bomb is a firebomb. What are they selling in class 28? That's the question. Okay. Bombay sports. Being Bagwala, interesting. Now, see, it's 100. So what you can also do is you can cut to 11. Put kin to see if there's something that seems to be similar. Nothing. Because bumpkin will. But again, go through that as well. Skim through it. Just know Bombas, Bombay, Sapphire, Bomb. So see, why you need to be careful over here is it's boom beach. But if it was boomkin, then that would be a problem for you. So you need to be careful in phonetic search as well. So in the ancillary class, this seems to be a very safe mark to go ahead with, but in the primary class. But conducting a quick search in the ancillary class as well. Why? Now these are, these are the marks and these are the kind of clients that you're always happy with because they save you a lot of pain and they save themselves a lot of pain. And you end up wishing that all of your clients were like this, smart with their marks. It's a very random name that I came up with. So if any one of you is planning on launching a toy business, go ahead, you can use this. Uh, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I hope this is also. Can you please confirm if my screen is also visible to you all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So we did start with match with. Now we'll go to phonetics. So as I was saying, this seems to be a very safe mark for the client to proceed with, and you always wish all of your clients were like this. They save you a lot of pain and they save themselves a lot of hard work and pain. Bombay connection, Bombay. There seems to be a lot of Bombay over here. Bumpies, right? Pumpkin and bumpies, but it's objected. And let's have a look at the goods. Details of the registration. Baby diapers, stationery, plastic, playing plastic rate loyalty. So they are into a similar kind of a business, but again, it's bumpies and you're bumpkin. So, you can claim different marks. So And then again, you can also say that bump is something that relates to baby bump. So bump is sort of an industry common word in the industry. So it should not be something that the opposite party should cry about. Bumpies, again, protection guard granted. I'm believing it's something related to. Right. So it's mostly stationery. So again, now that you see that it's bumpies and they're selling stationery. So when filing an application, this is where, the strategy thing that I was talking to you about comes into the picture is that while working on the specifications for your client, you will make sure that you try to avoid a very generic description of stationery, right? You make sure that nowhere over here they have mentioned babies or kids or toddlers or toys for toddlers. So you make sure when you're creating specifications in class 16, you mention that, it's stationery for toddlers and kids or babies or books for babies or, you know, polymer modeling clay for kids to make sure that, if this comes up into objection, you can say that we have mentioned we are into a very different business than them. I don't think there's anything else that's a problem. So yeah, so for this client, my advice would be that this is a very safe mark to do it. I would mention these two phonetic marks or maybe the bumpies mark, but the chances of that being a threat are very low. So we don't need to be that worried about it. And if in case, in future something comes up, we can very easily deal with it. Now the last mark was doodle for clothes. So for clothing, we have class 25, clothing, footwear, and headgear. We'll stick to that. And then, depending on our client, we can go with, I think for that, this would be enough, class 25. So we'll go with that. Doodle. Hmm. Again, this seems to be, now this would not be a problem because very clearly we can see that it's abandoned. So we don't need to be worried about it. But what we do need to worry about are these other marks, doodles, doodle magic, flap doodle, flap doodle, the doodle happy. So this is like Noir, I think. And yeah, maybe we'll have to employ a lot of strategies. So over here itself, we can see. So one strategy would be, of course, your client is into clothing, but what exactly into clothing? Is it clothing for everybody, or is it some, special kind of clothing? Are they into sustainable clothing? Try to find that about your client. You will also, ask your client to tell them if they have been using it prior since a long time. So you can obviously bank on the fact that you have acquired distinctiveness. So the situation here is very similar to Noir. So medium to high risk, it seems. But let's finish our search before we form any opinions. 25. Doodle. It's a lot of doodle in clothing industry, it seems. Doodle drama. So clearly, this mark is going to create a lot of drama for your client. I'm not going that deep as I went for Noir, but I hope you're all getting an idea. Doodle. rectification file. Ready-made garments. Okay, somebody else filed a rectification against this. What we'll do is this shows up everywhere, but thirdly, okay. Nothing phonetically similar, but again, in the first search itself, we saw that there are a lot of similar marks. So advice to the client is there is quite a lot of threat to it, and we will have to then strategize accordingly. Maybe again, go come up with a creative mark or specific goods or services like that. So now we will come back to our presentation. So I hope that was clear. If there were any questions, you all can definitely ask that towards the end, and I'll be happy to take that. So that is how you conduct a trademark search. Now, I hope that was informative for you all, and it's your chance to now conquer this industry and you learn the whole. So this is what I was talking to you about towards the beginning, is that we have a special offer for all of you who have joined today and taken the step to invest into learning on a Friday evening where you could have just kicked back and relaxed. So for you all, after the session we'll be sharing a link with you all over email, and there you will have a Google form. And on that, for you, the price to the course is, so we are launching a course, Trademark Law and Advocacy. I'll just quickly show you the brochure of the course so that you know what do we have in store for you all. So this is the course starting in October. Like today, how I, took you all through the very intricate steps of conducting a trademark search. I will be taking you all through practical aspects of trademark, from to filing an application, conducting trademark search, conducting an international search, conducting phonetic search, conducting what is a deep dive search, how do you actually do it, and also responding to examination reports, the opposition procedure. I'll take you through all of that. And we also have on board experts from the industry, Ms. Sunana Brahma from Khaitan, Ms. Shreya Ganguly from FIDUS, Shubham sir from RK Diwan, Aman sir from Sai Krishna, and of course, Mr. VC Matthews, the intellectual property law head at Fox and Mandel. So you will have the chance to interact and network with them, but that does not end it here. We have benefits and perks for you all. We have opportunities where top performers will get the chance to publish. You again have lectures by industry experts, network with law students and network with these industry experts, and everybody who signs up for the course will get a free one-on-one mentorship session, which will be for 45 minutes, and according to your choice, according to your goals. I will connect with you. As I mentioned at the beginning of the session, we have experts from around the world. We have experts from India. We have people from students to partner level people on board with us. So I will connect you all, connect each one of you with one perfect mentor for you, with whom you can discuss and get your doubts cleared. Discuss the roadmap. You have any anxieties? What does the future look for you? You can discuss everything with them. And again, you get real world experience. You will tackle practical assignments like we did today. This was something that we did together, but you will do it on your own and you'll also get a personal feedback. And then also you will have access to the Google Classroom where you will have access to all the material forever. And of course, till you're using Google, Google platform, you will have access to the material where you will have recorded lectures, course material. So this, all of this for you at the price of 2599. So that is a deal, guys, and you should really not, miss that deal. Uh, Again, why should you go ahead with us? I will show you the reviews that we have received for our previous courses, and that was last year. So again, informative session with a step-by-step explanation, basics of trademark, and then again, insights into the process registration, informative and helpful. It was a 2-day certificate course, but within 2 days, people got to learn so much. So imagine how much you can learn within 1 month. Very well structured, you know, informative session. So we've had great reviews. Everybody was happy. And again, like, this is something that you all should consider. Come on board, and I will make sure that you learn everything. And of course, we have amazing faculty, amazing live lectures, practical examples, and I will be available to answer all the doubts because being a part of the IP Press, one of our main goals is to, you know, help other IP holics or other enthusiasts gain the knowledge that they so deeply crave in making the career in IP. So definitely use this link. Manya has shared it with you all, and we'll also send it to you over your email. So now let's live classes. The timings of the live classes will be over the weekend on Saturdays and Sundays so that you don't have to spend extra time apart from, your college or your internships or your work. On Sundays at 12, you will have the live sessions. On Saturdays and on Sundays, we will have practical sessions. And you will have the whole week to go through the course material, which is easy, simplified, but also practical at the same time. So it's something that, your whole month you'll invest into learning, which will be seamless and smooth. And of course, if you have now that we are towards the end, if you have any questions about trademark search or about the session, I am open to that. Risha, Fatima, what is class? Okay, so sorry, I missed on that. So class is basically there are different types of goods and services. It's determined. It's niche classification where goods or services are differentiated into different classes to make it easier for the applicants to define their scope, right? So these are, it's just loading. So these are the different types of goods and services. When you're filing an application, you select basically, which class does your business fall into. As we were going through bumpkin, it's into clothing, so it's 25. So when you file an application, you will mention class 25, and then you will very deeply, very intricately mention all the classes. As we were going through the different sort of applications, right? So we also, I also expanded on a lot of applications to show you what kind of classes they're in. So this is also an exercise that you do as a trademark attorney when you're filing an application. Filing an application is not just putting the name of the proprietor and the address. You also have to do this. And this takes a lot of effort, guys. You can't just copy paste this and put it into your application. You have to customize this according to the client, and that I will teach you during the course. Shashi, are you trying to ask something?
Ma'am, how many days this class will goes?
It's for a month, and you'll have classes on weekends. So Saturdays and Sundays you'll have classes, and apart from that you'll have the whole month. Uh, and of course, after that, for your lifetime, when you'll have access to the course.
And is this course helpful for also the trademark agent examination, which is going to be conducted in 24?
Yes, for
Because
sure, because
I need
hmm.
more from the Trademark Act 1999. So can we cover this also, or there's something different?
So this course is majorly based on the practical aspects, but of course, uh, when you're covering practical aspects, you're also covering the basic theory, things that are important in the Trademarks Act.
Okay.
And of course, this course will help you after the exam, when you clear the exam and you go on into practice. So where do I find the course content? The course content, once you register for it on 30th of September, you will be added to the Google Classroom, where you will have access to the course content module wise. There'll also be other, relevant material available for you on the course. Will there be yes, definitely. As mentioned, there will be internship opportunities with the course. So again, it's not available for everybody, but those of you who perform well, in the practical examination, you will definitely get an internship opportunity with an IP firm. We also have, tie-ups, not really tie-ups, but firms that would be happy to have, on board people on our recommendation, when we say that this is a student that we find has a lot of potential and has performed well in the course, they will be happy to take you on board for an internship. And of course, when you perform well, you don't just get an internship opportunity, you also get a publication opportunity at the blog. Now, that is something that you get when you perform well, but once you join the course, you also get a free mentorship session. Yes, it does cover. So trademark prosecution and litigation, prosecution, filing, opposition, uh, cease and desist letters, and the basics of litigation also.
So will you cover some case laws also in the course?
Yes, the essential case laws that, each trademark attorney should have knowledge of. We'll have that for you. Don't worry, guys, because this is something that, we have people who have been practicing this. So we have this from a very practical aspect. So you don't really need to be worried about the practicalities of the course.
Actually, ma'am, yes, because we know the theoretical portions of the trademark or the IP, but when we came into the practice, we lacked very much because we have
Definitely.
to.
Hmm.
Yes, so the practical implementation is more important for the IP profession. If the course is all about the practical implementations, then it will be very
Definitely,
helpful for us.
because yeah, because that is what we understand, as law students, and then when you become a lawyer, you realize that there is a certain gap between the theory and the practice, and how do you measure the gap is you learn as much practical aspects as possible. Now, one way is obviously internships, but before you go into internships, you also need to make, ensure your senior that I am not really somebody who's that clueless, but I also know something. And with this course, you won't just learn something, but you will know the skills that will help you make an impact with your senior. Now, if you still have questions or doubts, you can obviously DM us on our Instagram. The handle is the ippress dot the the IP Press, and I or somebody from the team will be available over there. If there's something related to trademark search that you want to know, just mention that you are from this course, and I will know that you are looking for me to answer those questions, and I'll be happy to take them. Again, guys, please register for the course, because uh, if you have stuck till the end today, then definitely you were looking for, guidance and insights on something practical about the course. So you will definitely greatly appreciate, the learning that this course will bring, and I would be more than happy to, teach you and take you through all of that. Again, thank you for joining